Hey, what's happening? It's your boy Rikishi, your WWE Hall of Fame. Check this out. I want you to keep it locked on Smart Tank Revolution. Don't touch that dial. Why? The big man said I back that ass up on it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Smart Tank Revolution, where we always kick out at 2. I am once again your solo recap host, Joey. Time to get back to business. And I am bringing you the first of many future installments of what I am now going to coin the DYNAMITE diatribe, which will basically be my thoughts, my predictions, my overall feelings, and recap of the weekly TNT Dynamite series. So, let's get started. Where Raw this week was a joy, sometimes Dynamite can feel like a chore. But thankfully this week, it didn't feel like taking out the trash. It was more like just tidying up your room. There was good points, there was bad points, and there was great points. So let's get into it. Obviously, first of all, Dynamite started out with a big promo, much like I thought it would. It makes sense. Will Ospreay storms to the ring to basically defend Daniel Garcia's honor and his own, and it makes perfect sense. Will Ospreay's completely over. He's a mega face. He's hugely popular, and it just makes sense after the tirade that MJF threw on Collision. So he comes out, and I'm a Will Ospreay fan. Recently converted, though. I haven't always been a Will Ospreay fan because, unfortunately, I'm a substance guy. I love 5-star matches. I love in-ring action. But if that's all you bring, I tune out. I need the story. I need the drama. I need the feeling. Like, you have to suck me in. I have to be captivated to be part of it. You know what I mean? You can be the absolute best wrestler in the ropes, but boring as paper to me. It's just the way it is. You know, I don't like the term sports entertainment, but it's there for a reason. I prefer pro wrestling because I think this is what professionals do. It's very vastly different from what Olympic wrestlers do and amateur wrestlers do. It's not even the same level, but I get the term sports entertainment, whether I agree with it or not. So Will Ospreay, for all intents and purposes, is a decent sports entertainer. He's an immaculate pro wrestler, and he's an incredible ring talent. But there's, some points in his game that just aren't up to par. And promos are one, which is usually why he has a mouthpiece or he's part of a faction or whatever. But this time they allowed him to go to the ring and cut a passionate promo himself to open up the show, nonetheless, which is a mega spot. That's like premium spot that you want. It's either the opening of the show or the middle of the show. Those are the two spots you want because those are the two spots that ratings always gravitate to. So that being said, Will Ospreay comes to the ring, sits up on the turnbuckle, and just vents. And he does it in a very authentic way that isn't cringe or anything like that. If you know Will Ospreay's character, you're gonna get what you can guess what he's gonna say. You know, there's a lot of brubs thrown in there, and that's his thing. But he doesn't do it for the sake of catchphrases, or it's not formulaic. It flows, it makes sense, and it pushes everything along. It's great. And obviously he is the the valiant baby face. So he calls out MJF to the ring right now. Wants to face him tonight, obviously. But the announcers, make very adamantly clear that MJF isn't here. Much like Will Ospreay wasn't there on Collision. So you have a complete mirror of what went on. Makes sense, right? No big deal. But before everything cuts, MJF appears on the Tron. And he's drinking a glass of wine and just, being a Bond villain, basically. And he just says his thoughts on Will Ospreay. And they're very valid. Through this entire promo package, both stars are very valid in what they say. And that's important because most likely this is going to be a Wembley match. And basically Wembley is AEW WrestleMania, right? Everyone's got to bring it. Everyone's got to be on top tier. So far so good. And, he pretty much dismisses Daniel Garcia, which was smart because I never ever thought that was going to be the match. There was something in my gut even before he turned. I was like, no way, this can't be. Like it doesn't make sense. And I'm glad because we got MJF as a face last summer with Adam Cole. And it was a fun ride, but it's not a natural ride. Like, he can't sustain it. It's just not Max. This is Max to a T. Let him run. Let him be free. Let him be chaotic. This is him. This is what you want. And Will Ospreay is a really good lightning rod for Max. Because one, you don't want somebody on the stick that could possibly outshine or even hang with MJF. That's not compelling. Compelling is the contrast, right? So that's what we're getting. We're getting Will Ospreay versus MJF. It's all but official. So next week, in true Tony Khan booking fashion, which makes me want to bang my head against the wall, he booked Ospreay versus MJF for the international title, which is basically the match we're going to get at Wembley. My prediction is next week on Dynamite, it's a no contest, something goes wrong, and we'll get it at Wembley. If not, it makes no fucking sense, and I just give up. But all in all, good opener, strong start. Let's move on. So the next segment is the men's final of the Owen Hart tournament, which is Bryan Danielson, no argument there, and Hangman Adam Page, the dark horse. Big argument. Makes no sense. Stupid as fuck. And if Bryan beats him, he's just come back. He's supposed to be a badass. What does that do? How does that make sense for his character? Like how? Like what does that do? This is Tony Khan booking. This is feel the moment booking. Just get the pop and move on. but it makes no sense. So regardless, at least they went with the smart mark route. Danielson gets the win. Perfect. Danielson versus Swerve at Wembley. Biggest stage. Probably Danielson's last match ever. At this point, no argument. Great. A lot of meat on the bone right there. Thing I didn't like is Jeff Jarrett having to count the pinfall. Like, I don't understand. He just got undermined last week and embarrassed. And now he's got to raise the hand in the contest that he should be in. The final should have been Jeff Jarrett versus Owen Hart. Jeff Jarrett versus Bryan Danielson. It just made sense on every single level. No idea how Adam Page got brought into it. Or, Magnum TA Adam Page is what he's going for right now, which sucks. But whatever. So Page loses. Jarrett raises Owen's hand. Everyone makes a big deal. Jarrett raises Bryan's hand. Everyone makes a big deal. He won the Owen Hart tournament. He wins the Owen Hart belt. And he's going to Wembley. No argument. What I didn't expect was Swerve to come right out. I figured they would let it marinate a week or two since they've got time. Nope. Swerve came right out. This is where AEW is very frustrating for me. And this is why I call it Dynamite Diatribe, because I'm going to verbally eviscerate things here and there. Swerve comes out. Mega over face. Mega over face. Especially in the wake of Forbidden Door. You put him over as a triumphant, always never give up face. So Daniel Bryan naturally is a sympathetic choice, right? But in a kayfabe way, it makes sense because he's the pinfall that Swerve wants to get back. Danielson beat him. So it's the monkey on his back. It's the white whale. It's the blemish on his record that he wants to wipe out. Totally makes sense. And from a booking standpoint, you have gold here because you have two potentials at Wembley. Two very viable potentials. One, Swerve gets his win back and Danielson goes out on his sword. And that's it. He does the right thing. He looks up at the lights, puts over the up-and-comer, and moves on until he resurfaces again. But that's a time-honored tradition in wrestling. You're going out. You know you're going out. It's a business. You want the business to continue and thrive. So you put over the guy who you're losing to. Just makes sense. It's called giving someone the rub, right? So that's one option. Give Swerve the win back, give him the rub, and let him continue his really good reign that he's worked hard for. Or two, you can book the sympathetic farewell, which either one at this point I am not against. I've been a humongous Bryan Danielson fan for many, many years, even prior to WWE. As a matter of fact, I saw his final ROH match live at Boston College right before he debuted in WWE, and it was magnificent. So I always thought big things. And Danielson is very humble, very giving and very much of the business. But every now and then, someone like that deserves their flowers. Someone every now and then deserves to go out with a big win and fanfare. And I would argue that Danielson in AEW is that guy. Thus far, he is that guy. He's busted his ass. He was arguably one of their biggest signings ever. And he's done nothing but give. He has not taken. He has not undermined. He has elevated talent and just continued to put on the type of work that you would expect. So you could go that route. You could have Swerve fall to Danielson. And Danielson gets to go out with a mega win at Wembley at arguably their WrestleMania and go out with a moment that you'll never forget. He's well deserving of it. I wouldn't argue. But that's the thing. It's very compelling. It all depends on how you build it from now to Wembley. But my concern is there's, as my cohort Donnie would say, a lot of bipolar booking going on because, like I said, Swerve is a mega face. But what he did after Danielson's match tonight almost made him a heel. He basically cut a heel promo, which is weird because you're either a heel or you're either a face. And even if you're a tweener, there's a distinction. Right now, I don't think they know what they want either of them to be. Because kayfabe, if you think about it, Swerve is the undeniable face. Danielson would be the heel because he's part of BCC. Even though he's the sympathetic choice, he'd be the heel. So to have Swerve cut a heel promo is strange. And if we're going to get this topsy-turvy up and down to Wembley, it's going to make things ridiculous. Like, All In last year was magnificent. Tony Khan has a chance to do it again. Now, I have been so critical of Tony Khan on his week-to-week booking. His television booking is atrocious at best. And this was a watchable Dynamite, but still not fantastic. His television booking is atrocious. His pay-per-view payoff booking is fantastic. It's almost never miss. So I have faith in All In, the show. It's just the journey to get there is confusing. But it's the right call. Danielson versus Swerve, the two outcomes. Either Swerve gets his win back or Danielson gets his Cinderella moment farewell. Either one is a workable thing. And that's important. So that's a good thing. And then we jump from there to there was no Moxley, there was no Claudio. There was a 6-man tag, but forgive me, I'm not a mid-Carter New Japan guy, but there was a couple people, and it didn't grab me. So unfortunately, like, these recaps and these diatribes aren't going to be a complete deep dive. They're gonna be like a highlight gloss over, and that didn't make the cut. But the next thing was Jericho and Samoa Joe in some kind of a street fight, which really had me scratching my head because it was a stupid booking. But it ended the way I thought. Either way, it was dumb. Like, without a screwy finish, neither one could afford to lose. Jericho can't afford to lose because he's the top of the learning tree and the guy that Hook is going after. And Samoa Joe couldn't afford to lose because Samoa Joe was the badass rebuilding himself as the mentor. So I was like, okay, where's the screwy finish? And oh my God, was it like the stupidest screwy finish? They work their way from the ring, they go backstage, and then a forklift gets involved. And then I basically was like, okay, F this. Like, I don't care. You know, like, you don't need to overbook everything just because it's TV. It is not 90s, mid 90s WCW or late 90s Attitude Era. It doesn't have to end in a schmoz. It just doesn't. Like, you can do smart booking, but that was that. We move on. It was a nothing. So, and then the next thing was Hangman going backstage after his loss to talk to the Elite, which are his buddies. And who answers the door but Okada? And he's basically denied access. So what they're telling you is Hangman's not welcome into the Elite because he lost, which is fine, but also dumb because you put all this effort into Hangman coming back as a badass with a darker feel, beats Jeff Jarrett, loses to Bryan, and now he's an outcast. So it's stupid. My guess is it's leading to Okada versus Hangman for Okada's title, which is, who cares, right? In AEW, titles are basically, you know, participation trophies, unless they're the main event or the TNT. So it's just mind-boggling that they would waste Jeff Jarrett for this spot. Like, the emotion they could have resonated tonight between Bryan and Jarrett in a classic would have been amazing. But no, you squandered it because you had Hangman squash him. Why? I don't know. And then next is Mercedes, which, you know, Mercedes 2 belts after Becky comes out and runs her shtick about everything. And oh, Donnie, by the way, I really want you to defend this, because she comes out and says, I'm the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And I know you know that well. And what sucks is the crowd doesn't even react. Like, they don't care. And I'm a Sasha and Mercedes fan. I defend her. I had to do it again today. Like, I like her, genuinely. I think she's great. But in AEW thus far, it just hasn't come to fruition at all. It's been very disappointing. However, they're in Texas. And whose music hits? Yeah, DMD. And the crowd goes bananas. Bananas. And just for a moment. And she comes out and there's, you know, a little bit of an interaction. They're pulled apart and that's it. But just her music, people went nuts for. Like, that should tell you. You know, the woman you backed the Brinks truck up to isn't doing it. But your homemade star, who was the pinnacle of your women's division when she was on top, is getting insane reactions. So, Tony, I know you're not Hunter Hunter listens to us. But if you happen to just randomly catch this across your algorithm and you turn us on, I'm begging you, let Britt go over in Wembley for at least the TNT title. Let Mercedes keep the strong. That's fine. But give Britt the TBS title. Give it to her. Get your women back on track. Get them talked about. And do it the right way. Please. Britt is the ticket. If you cannot see it, I don't know what to tell you. Okay. That being said, alas, we come to the end of Dynamite, which was very interesting. Good choice, little random, but still a good choice. So it's the women's final of the Owen Hart tournament, because you have the men's, now you have the women's. I am totally on board with women being in the main event, especially if they deserve it. And this match was really good. This was Willow Nightingale, who I'm very high up on. A lot of upside, great future ahead of her. And Mariah May, who I think is extremely underrated. I think people look at her and just because she's so hot, assume she can't wrestle. The chick can wrestle her ass off. She was wrestling her ass off in the indies before she came and became Toni Storm's sidekick. Like, lest people forget, she was making a name. That's why she's here. The match was back and forth. It was decent. It was good. And ultimately, it ended with Mariah May getting the win over Willow. Which, again, like Danielson, kayfabe is 110% the right way to go creatively. So now, obviously, you get Tony versus the protege at Wembley. And I would arguably say I love Toni Storm. Timeless Toni Storm is a gem that was unforeseen in AEW. A complete reinvention and a brilliant creative idea. Like, it is on the level of Broken Matt, because no woman has ever had the idea to go so backward and just fall into it and just commit. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. However, she's done it for a very long time. And if she's not beaten at Wembley, it becomes a case of when. When does this overstay its welcome? So I would argue that Mariah May is the right one. And I'm extremely interested in the journey they're going to have to get us there. But that was Dynamite tonight. And in all honesty, like I said, Dynamite is usually a slog. AEW week-to-week programming is usually very, very difficult. Tonight, not so bad. Pacing was fine. It wasn't, overstuffed. Good promo to start. Book ended with 2 really decent matches in the Owen Hart tournament, like it should, because who it's representing and who it's homaging is very important. And then not much filler in between. But compared to Raw this week, it falls short. And I'm not a tribalist. I do not thump one or the other. I want both to succeed. It's very important that I convey that, because what we're in right now, or more rather, what we were in 2019 to 2021, was the closest thing we've ever seen to a reinvigoration of the Monday Night Wars. I mean, unfortunately, I'm a wrestling fan. I love it all. But if I'm gonna, throw on the honesty shirt, WWE trounces AEW right now in all aspects. Storytelling, production, everything. They're on the ball. Regardless of a subpar Money in the Bank, they rebound so quick. And AEW seems to be the absolute opposite mirror of that, where they can't quite get the week to week, but when you have to plunk your cash down, so far I have not walked away feeling like I've been ripped off. It's hard to feel like you're ripped off with 7 to 8 hours of wrestling, and good wrestling. So that is a kudos to Tony Khan. I just hope he can get the week-to-week storytelling, drama, build-up on par. Because if he can, I have said this so many times, if he can get that locked, he will not only compete, but you might see an Eric Bischoff situation again. But that's a very, very big if, because he's missing the mark in every way, form, week to week so far. But if he connects with it, let me tell you, AEW has an amazing talent roster, enough to be dangerous. And I really hope they go for that killing stroke. But this was the Dynamite Diatribe. All in all, it wasn't so bad. If I had to rate the show from 1 to 10, I give it a 7. I give it a solid 7 with a lot of optimism and hope to come. Thank you all. See you in the next one.